Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, adopted by General Assembly Resolution 61-106 of December 13, 2006. Article 18. Freedom of movement and citizenship. 1. States parties recognize the rights of persons with disabilities to freedom of movement, to freedom of choice of residence and to citizenship on an equal basis with others, including by ensuring that persons with disabilities a. have the right to acquire and change citizenship and are not deprived of their citizenship arbitrarily or because of disability. B. have not been deprived, due to disability, of the opportunity to obtain documents confirming their nationality or other identity documents, to possess and use such documents, or to use appropriate procedures, such as immigration, which may be necessary to facilitate the exercise of the right to freedom of movement. C. had the right to freely leave any country, including their own. D. have not been arbitrarily or invalidly deprived of the right to enter their own country. 2. Disabled children are registered immediately after birth and from the moment of birth have the right to a name and to acquire citizenship, as well as, to the greatest extent possible, the right to know their parents and the right to their care. Article 19. Independent lifestyle and involvement in the local community. States parties to this convention recognize the equal right of all persons with disabilities to live in ordinary places of residence, with equal choices with other people, and take effective and appropriate measures to promote the full realization of this right by persons with disabilities and their full inclusion and involvement in the local community, including ensuring that a. persons with disabilities they had the opportunity to choose their place of residence on an equal basis with other people and where and with whom to live, and were not obliged to live in certain housing conditions. B. persons with disabilities had access to various types of community-based support services provided at home, at their place of residence, including personal assistance necessary to support life in and inclusion in the local community, as well as to prevent isolation or segregation from the local community. C. services and facilities for collective use intended for the general population were equally accessible to persons with disabilities and met their needs. Article 20. Individual mobility. States parties shall take effective measures to ensure the individual mobility of persons with disabilities with the greatest possible degree of their independence, including by a. facilitating the individual mobility of persons with disabilities in a manner of their choice, at a time of their choice and at an affordable price. B. facilitating access of persons with disabilities to quality mobility aids, devices, assistive technologies and services of assistance and intermediaries, including through their provision at an affordable price. C. training of persons with disabilities and specialists working with them in mobility skills. D. encouraging enterprises engaged in the production of mobility aids, devices and assistive technologies to take into account all aspects of mobility of persons with disabilities. Article 21. Freedom of expression and belief and access to information. States parties shall take all appropriate measures to ensure that persons with disabilities can enjoy the right to freedom of expression and belief, including the freedom to seek, receive and impart information and ideas on an equal basis with others, using, at their choice, all forms of communication defined in Article 2 of this convention, including a. providing disabled persons with information intended for the general public, in accessible formats and using technologies that take into account different forms of disability, in a timely manner and at no additional cost. B. acceptance and promotion of use in official relations, sign languages, braille, reinforcing and alternative ways of communication and all other available ways, methods and formats of communication of the choice of the disabled. C. actively encouraging private enterprises providing services to the general public, including via the Internet, to provide information and services in accessible and suitable formats for persons with disabilities. D. encouraging the media, including those providing information via the Internet, to make their services accessible to persons with disabilities. E. recognition and promotion of the use of sign languages. Article 22. Privacy. 1. Regardless of the place of residence or housing conditions, no disabled person should be subjected to arbitrary or unlawful encroachment on the inviolability of his private life, family, home or correspondence and other types of communication, or illegal attacks on his honor and reputation. Persons with disabilities have the right to the protection of the law against such encroachments or attacks. 2. The participating states shall protect the confidentiality of information on the identity, health status and rehabilitation of persons with disabilities on an equal basis with others. Article 23. Respect for home and family. 1. States parties shall take effective and appropriate measures to eliminate discrimination against persons with disabilities in all matters relating to marriage, family, paternity, motherhood and personal relationships on an equal basis with others, while striving to ensure that a. The right of all persons with disabilities who have reached the age of marriage to marry and create a family on the basis of the free and full consent of the married persons was recognized. B. Recognize the rights of persons with disabilities to freely and responsibly make decisions about the number of children and the intervals between their births and to access age-appropriate information and education on reproductive behavior and family planning, and provide means to enable them to exercise these rights. C. Persons with disabilities, including children, maintain their fertility on an equal basis with others. 2. Participating states shall ensure the rights and obligations of persons with disabilities in relation to guardianship, adoption of children or similar institutions, when these concepts are present in national legislation. In all cases, the highest interests of the child are paramount. States parties shall provide appropriate assistance to persons with disabilities in fulfilling their child-rearing responsibilities. 3. States parties shall ensure that children with disabilities have equal rights with regard to family life. In order to realize these rights and to prevent the concealment of children with disabilities, their abandonment, evasion of care for them and their segregation, the participating states undertake to provide children with disabilities and their families with comprehensive information, services and support from the very beginning. 4. States parties shall ensure that a child is not separated from his or her parents against their will, except in cases where the competent authorities supervised by the court, in accordance with applicable laws and procedures, determine that such separation is necessary in the best interests of the child. Under no circumstances can a child be separated from his parents because of the disability of either the child himself or one or both parents. 5. The participating states undertake, in the event that the next of kin are unable to provide care for a disabled child, to make every effort to organize alternative care by involving more distant relatives, and in the absence of such an opportunity, by creating family conditions for the child to live in the local community.